I'm Angelique Gibson, and I'm here with Chaotic Careers. Okay, so when I was 5, I really wanted to be a chemist. Except for, you're 5, you've got no clue what that means. And then I got to 6 and went, I'm going to be an archaeologist. And I stuck with that all the way to freshman year of college. I was going to be an archaeologist. I went to school to be an archaeologist. I have a degree in anthropology. But something happened when I was an undergrad. There was an event that happened with my professors that made me realize I didn't want to keep going down that route. So I interviewed everyone at the lunch table at University of South Carolina that day and said, well, what's your major? And what does that mean? And I got to one kid and he's like, I'm media arts, but you shouldn't join us because I don't need more competition. So I got really petty and I changed my major right in front of him. And that's how I ended up in this field. So I always liked movies. Like, I was kind of a loner kid. I didn't have a lot of close friends or get into sports. I'm kind of awkward and fall down a lot. So I went to a movie every single week. That was the way Mom would just drop me off to be kind of babysat from the time I was 8. It was the 90s. They didn't think they'd steal us back then. And I also had an older sister who lived in Wilmington, North Carolina at the time. And she was getting on all the movie and TV shows sets that they were doing over there. So she asked me, do you want to be an extra with me? Because I think I could talk the casting guy into letting me be an extra too. So I was really into watching movies. I was like, I get to be on a TV show. Do I get a speaking part? And they're like, no. I'm like, do I get to hang out? Yeah. Okay. Yes, I will do this at 13. So it kind of opened up this is a possible option, but it wasn't one that I took really seriously until I got to college. So I'm a first generation college student. Okay, my parents did not have an opportunity to go to college. My sister ended up graduating at the age of 50. What that means is that my family looked at me and went, that's gonna pay your bills? It also was me just having doubts going, this is kind of like a faraway dream-like thing. This isn't something a girl from rural South Carolina gets a chance to do. It's not something that someone who doesn't come from a lot of money, who can't afford a bunch of film equipment, is supposed to be able to do. Or at least I thought at the time. I just decided life is really short. And why not at least try? Because if the degree didn't work out, I could always get a job doing something else because I had a degree. And there's a lot of places that really don't care what your major is, but they do care that you completed something and you have something to show for what you completed. Oh my gosh. I've got some scary moments. I was line producing a friend's horror movie. We were doing a slasher film in the middle of rural Ohio, out on a dirt road in the dark. So it got to be about 2 or 3 a.m. And it was freezing. It was maybe -15? No, it was definitely warmer than that. It was probably around 10 degrees. And everything had frozen over, and we quit paying attention to our surroundings because we were so into the movie we were trying to make. So we didn't realize we were surrounded by coyotes. And we were turning off the lights because we finally were wrapping for the night. And we had one light on for safety, and every time the lights went off, a whole new set of the packs would just go, and we were just all cramming together going, coyotes don't eat people, right? They did not. We were fine. There've been some good experiences. They're not all scary. Some of them were really good. I got to meet a lot of really interesting and cool people doing all this stuff. Yeah, it's been a good experience. It's not all terrifying, I promise. Ooh. Favorite film is Moulin Rouge by Baz Luhrmann, quickly followed by Jurassic Park, the original. This is gonna sound so tropey and cliche, but I promise you it's true. There's this moment when, as a teacher, you're teaching something difficult, and you see their eyes glaze over, and they're like, whatever, I don't have to listen to this. This is too much information. Or, do you really know this material that you're giving me? And then you go a little further and you question something, and there's this light bulb that goes off. And they go, oh, I get it now. And all the pieces of the whole entire puzzle start to come together. And I think that moment when the students are like, they find a new way to think about a problem, that I think is my favorite thing. Oh, okay, well I've had a couple weird ones. Okay, this goes with students have no clue I did this. So my father had passed away when I was 18, right before I went off to college. So I needed to get my very first gig in order to help pay for expenses. And the job I found was called SMS staffing, and it was a phone bank. And people would call in, and anytime they had a new hire, in order to fill out their I-9s and their W-2s. So what I learned from it, though, was how to have a really good phone voice and how to ask questions nobody wants to answer. I'd have to ask things like, what type of welfare or SSI are you currently receiving? And that's a hard question. No one wants to answer that. But just the skill to be able to talk to people who are probably going to be angry at me for asking these things, and to explain why they needed to be able to answer it was a huge skill to pick up. And it was definitely a weird job. Like, totally unrelated to movies. Unrelated to anything. I worked on an archaeology dig, too, where I learned very much how to dig. Do not dig down. You have to dig sideways. I learned how to shake and shift in order to find fossils and artifacts. And the biggest thing I ever found on that last one I did was a chip of a 17th century bone toothbrush. And that was huge. That was the biggest find they'd had in 6 months. And that taught me that small things can be huge. Anything you find in life, you should honor it for what it is instead of comparing it to something else, including stuff you have in your own head of what you think it should be. In my head, when I started that, I was like, oh, we're gonna have to find whole pots or buried bones or something. No, a 17th century chip of a toothbrush was huge. That puts perspective of life in a very different way. Something odd I want, and I can't say $1 million. Okay.
You could say $1 million.
I could say $1 million now. What do I want? Right now, a sandwich. That would be on my list. What are the other two? I want my health back. That would be good. I mean, it's a wish, so therefore you can get it right. And the third one would be probably I would really like to get like a film studies paper published. That's on my list of things I'd like to do before I die, so I definitely would put it on a wish list.
What would you want your paper to be on?
Ooh, Korean dramas. And how masculinity is redefined in very specific Korean dramas. Alright, so this is what I tell my students to in class. Less than 3% of cinematographers are women. Less than 5% are directors. Less than 20% are screenwriters. About 20 to 30% are editors. It is really tough to walk in and be a different gender or to be a person of color. Because the statistics honestly are pretty similar. They're a little bit less to be anyone who's not white. But the only way that stuff gets changed is if you go do it. And I think part of the problem is that for the longest time, to go make a movie cost a hell of a lot of money. What I can say is you don't live in that world anymore. We have DSLR cameras. We have phones. Like, there's whole movies shot on iPhones now. And they're good. The difference is understanding how to use the technique so you can make something great. One of the problems, and this kind of circles back to the first question we talked about, why I always see the end coming. It's because it's always been the same people who've been allowed to say the same stories over and over. And over the last 5 years, this is the first time in my life where I've seen Hollywood films tell somebody else's story for once. I've seen TV shows talk about someone else's experience from their perspective instead of the same white normative perspective that's always been. Are there enough of those stories? No. But there should be more. There can be more. This is an opportunity for us to just flip the script on the whole way we tell stories in this mass media. And I think that students They get scared when they hear there's only 2% of cinematographers. But the moment you put that camera in your hand and you watch some YouTube videos, you open a book, you take a class, you're a cinematographer the moment you start shooting. You've just changed the numbers. Life isn't as easy as a movie. It is filled with chaos. Okay? You will not know what thing is going to hit you on a Tuesday randomly that's going to change your life. You're just not. That's going to be the same with your career and how your career changes and how you bounce back. And that's the thing you've got actual agency over, how you bounce back, how you redirect. And that's okay. You might end up going someplace you didn't expect. And that's okay, because that's what it's supposed to happen.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Chaotic Career Series with our guest, Professor Angelique Gibson. It was truly a delight for me to create for you all. This video promotes some of the core tenets that we tried to promote within this series, noting that chaos as well as intrigue occur throughout one's career, and that it is usually not as linear as one might think. But you are not alone on this journey. If you're ever needing any guidance or assistance, please come see us down at the Center for Career and Leadership Development. We're always there to lend a helping hand or support you in any way we possibly are able. And we also have free coffee, so it's a 2-for-1 deal. Now, with that being said, until next time, stay chaotic, Mox. Did you ever have any doubts about going into it?
Yeah. I had another one where we had to location scout a film that I was shooting, and we were in South Carolina in Charleston, which has a lot of alligators, and we needed to shoot on the water, and we're like getting our images and everything was good. We're taking our pictures to find out where do we want to set up, and I don't know how to row a kayak, and I got us stuck on cypress knobs, and my cinematographer was like, just push off on a cypress knob, we'll get off of it. I said, okay. So I did. We got our pictures, we came back, the guide was behind us, making sure we were okay the whole time. And she said, so it didn't scare you? What, getting stuck on a cypress knob? A little bit. I can't swim. And she said, no, that point when you shoved your row onto the alligator's face to get yourself off the cypress knob. There was an alligator? Yes. Well, it helped.